speaker today is Mr. Rakesh Asthana. So I'll tell you about Mr. Rakesh Asthana, and our guest of honor is Mr. Sanjay Jain. Before I proceed to that, I would like to say a few words about the Indian Advocate Forum. In the year 1999, some like-minded advocates just thought of coming together and having some interactions. It kept on growing. It kept on growing, and over the years we had seminars, webinars. Webinar came much later, but the interaction was there, and it came into a very fruitful sharing of knowledge and resources. And when technology made available better resources, we had an all India footprint, and almost all the states of this country, we have our members. You'll be glad to know that even from Nagaland and even from Canada and England, people in, who go abroad, they also keep in connection with the Indian Advocate Forum. And today, the situation is that we are doing this webinar after a certain gap of time, but I was under a lot of pressure that we must do something purposeful. And if I must say that I was thinking what could be purposeful, I was given an invitation by Mr. Asthana to visit one of the functions of Delhi Police. And there came the idea, because for a long time we have been bothered about the police reforms. So let me introduce to you to Mr. Asthana. Although introduction would be a repetition for some of you, because you just type his name in the Google and you know a lot about him. And I'll be just still do the repetition.
इसको कहते हैं सूर्य को दीपक दिखा.
Let me do that. Mr. Asthana is a 1984 batch IPS officer. One of his batchmates is also there, Mr. Sandeep Silas, who has joined from Goa. Mr. Jain, Sanjay Jain, you must be knowing Sandeep Silas, if you remember. So he has served, Mr. Asthana has served at many positions as an IPS officer. To name a few, he was Commissioner of Police Baroda, he was Commissioner of Police Surat, and then when he became DG, then he came to Delhi and he became a Special Director in CBI. Then he became Director CBI for some time. Then he became Director General Civil Aviation Security, then Director General Narcotics Control Bureau, Director General Border Security Force. And finally, after all such a rich experience, he was given the responsibility of Delhi Police, and that too with an extension of 1 year. So when he joined the Delhi Police, what is important here is that it's not that he got these so many assignments. It is that he left his impact everywhere. Wherever he joined, wherever he worked, he left his impact. And his impact has been that he has been innovative, he has been planning, he has a vision. In Surat, I remember, he introduced a very novel system of CCTV with some software, because of which he could reduce crime rate. I'm not talking in detail about the system, but he could reduce the crime rate in 1 year to the extent of 27.5%. And that is something unheard of. And I was really surprised. The Prime Minister himself had inaugurated the system over there. And when he came to Delhi Police, I believe he was well equipped to deal with a force of that magnitude, like Delhi Police. And in Delhi Police, what you have today is, earlier, if you used to say you used to dial 100, the response time was 8 minutes. So now it is 1, 2, and the response time is half, less than half. So kind of and a lot of improvements for the junior staff. And I must tell you, in Delhi High Court, I met a lady lawyer who's actually very, very tough on the government. She's always, criticizing the police officers. She said, one police officer I have seen, the performance of even in the courts has improved. So these officers now brief me properly. Their documents are complete for whatever reason are in. So this is the kind of impact that even Mr. Asthana, I do not know whether he's aware of up to what level and up to extent the impact is there. So keeping in view the improvement, efficiency and welfare of the police officers, he did a lot of improvements. And I would say that some officers were crying. They said, we would never have got our promotions, but for Mr. Asthana, who has been very fair to us. So, and I remember this 1 year of Mr. Asthana as the Delhi Police Commissioner has been largely peaceful. Things evaporated, the problems evaporated. We were not knowing how they were dealt with, but nothing came to the public. We slept at home at peace. That's what the Delhi police did. And his focus was cyber crimes. I mean, I'm talking in context of today's topic. And the crime through the internet is increasing every day. And so he created new structures, cyber cells. Earlier there should be one. Now I think there are many of them. When he'll speak, he will tell us what he has done. So with this kind of background, it was a natural choice if we have to talk about urban policing and internet as a background, and certainly Putta Swami's judgment in the background. I think that the best representation of the government can be done, and the opinion and experience can be shared only by a person of this rich experience like Mr. Asthana. So I now invite him to speak and share his thoughts on this topic, and there is no time limit. I invite you.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm really thankful to the forum, Indian Advocate Forum, for inviting me for this webinar and talking to you as a key speaker on the topic urban policing, challenges of urban policing in digitalized world. Before I go on to the topic straight away, I'd like to talk something in general, just to explain as to how the challenges are identified and met with in the field policing by us, and what is the future scenario so that we remain prepared for the future as well. I personally feel that being the leader of the force, we have to think ahead of times. We have to do perspective planning to be prepared for the challenges which are going to come our way in future. So this basic thing in mind, I personally feel that I have done the policing at various levels. As Ajay Veer has said, I am 84 batch officer. I like to briefly explain about my experience so that you can understand the initiatives which we took in Delhi Police. It will be easily understood. I basically am an investigator. I like, this is my core competence. I have served in the CBI for almost 14 years. First phase, I was there for 10 years, and then later 3 years, so 13 years. In my first phase, I had handled quite a large number of cases which were complicated. Why I am telling you this is that to be a successful police officer, one should know investigation. One should have a good supervisory skills over investigation, because I personally feel that the policing will be effective only when we secure convictions at the court. unless the percentage of conviction goes up in the court, whatever efforts we make will not be very effective. So during my tenure in the CBI and elsewhere also as a field officer, I had handled some complicated cases. Like I like to mention about this Purulia arms drop case of 1995 to begin with, then fodder scam cases of Bihar in 1996, bitumen scam cases of Bihar of 1997. Then when I came back to the state of Gujarat, I belong to the Gujarat cadre. I had been given the task to head the SIT for investigating the Godhra railway case in which a coach was set on fire. I continued with the investigation for about 6 years when SIT appointed by the Honorable Supreme Court took over the investigation. And it was, I think it was an honor to me when the SIT gave a certificate in the court, Supreme Court, saying that they could not find any lacuna in the investigation done by the Gujarat police so far as this railway burning case was concerned. And finally, it ended in conviction. Then I was Commissioner of Police Baroda for some 3 years and almost 5 years as Commissioner of Police in Surat. While I was in Baroda, I had played a key role in getting the Ahmedabad serial blast case detected in record number of days. And when I moved to Surat, we had investigated infamous case of Narayan Sain, son of Asaram Bapu, which ended in conviction subsequently in 2013. This case was registered and subsequently it ended in conviction. So if a police officer is good in field investigations, the law and order definitely improves. That is my personal belief. Because if you supervise the cases closely, incisively, the conviction rate definitely goes up. Then it's not basically the role of a police officer to prevent and detect the crime. This is the traditional duty of a police officer, the prevention and detection of crime and maintenance of law and order. Besides that, we have other duties like traffic management and successful prosecution of the cases in the court of law. On this background, I like to mention about the challenges which we face normally in the urban policing scenario. Policing is both a science as an art. And science because you have to apply so many time-tested principles of law and other aspects of policing. Art because it depends upon the common sense of the police officers to handle a situation and take split-second decisions when we are facing law and order situation or any other terrorist attack or any other law and order situation. So whether the policing is urban, semi-urban or rural, the principles of policing remains the same as I had mentioned earlier, like prevention and detection of crime, maintenance of law and order, traffic management, and successful prosecution in the court. In urban policing, especially in Delhi, the tasks are very difficult. Delhi, you all know, is the capital of the country. And it's basically always in the limelight, focus. The press is always very active here in the city, and even a minor incident is blown out of proportion at times. So one has to be on toes all the time. Secondly, this because of the capital of the country, we have to be very alert so far as VVIP securities are concerned. Not only the personal security, but there are so many vital installations. Like Parliament is there, Rashtrapati Bhavan is there, PMO is there, PM House is there. So many vital installations are there. Their security is also a prime concern. Then we have the diplomats of entire world who are here in Delhi. We have a separate wing for the diplomatic security, and we have to provide the best possible security to them because they carry their impressions in their back in their home and other places of the world also. And for that also a lot of pressure is there on our security directorate. Now, Delhi being the capital of the country has always been the center or of attraction for the terrorists. In the past, number of terrorist attacks have taken place. So to prevent any further such attack, we have to be on the toes all the time. I must tell you that the special cell of Delhi Police and the crime branch, these are the two specialized units which are working day in and day out to keep the city secure so far as the threat of terrorist attack is concerned. I cannot share you with the details, but why I am mentioning this point is we are using the technology in a big way to keep the city secure so far as this specialized threat is concerned on the city. Besides normal day-to-day crime or prevention and detection of crime or law and order situations. Then this place is unique. If any agitation is taking place in Tamil Nadu or any part of the country, people from different parts of the country come to Delhi to protest. Jantar Mantar is the place where they come and do the protest. And since Parliament is here, a lot of political personalities are here. So sometimes smaller agitations take a bigger form. Recently, we just had witnessed the farmers' agitation, which went on for a long time. And after a great difficulty and prolonged thing, it was subsided. Next is the communal problem in the city. Delhi is highly communally sensitive, parts of it. And the interested parties will definitely take advantage of any small incident of communal nature taking place in Delhi. Or for that example, if something happens outside Delhi, say in the past, you have seen that hijab controversy in Karnataka. It had its repercussions in Delhi also. People tried to agitate here as well and to create disturbances. Shaheen Bagh incident, we all know, and Northeastern Delhi riots in 2020, we all know. So commonly also it is very sensitive and one has to be on the toes all the time. And our policing has to be very effective to handle such a situation. Not only in preventing, but also if anything happens, to handle it and then investigate the cases and present a good charge sheet before the court of law so that the culprits, real culprits, are arrested and taken to book. In addition to that, there are normal crime patterns in the city which is affecting the large number of people, which has also been taken into account. For example, if you see the crime figures in the city, you will find that 70% of 80% of crime is with regard to smaller thefts or chain snatching, bag snatching, mobile snatching. Heinous crimes comprises only 20% of the total cases. So we should not forget this 80% chunk of crime, which is affecting the larger population, common people, the poor people or middle class people. We cannot afford to ignore that. So the policing has to be directed. The major thrust area should be on that side also. And in this, we again take help of the technology. Technology means this digital technology which is available to us. We take a great support. We take a help of technology, not only in detecting the crime, but also in preventing the crime. I'll come to that later on to explain how we are doing it. There are certain special crimes pertaining to the weaker sections of the society, like women are there, children are there, senior citizens are there, some weaker sections of the societies are there. Any crime happening against them is highlighted, and we are supposed to handle it in the most efficient manner. Again, in prevention, detection, and investigation, we take help of the technology. Whether it is a digital technology or the forensic science, we are greatly dependent upon the technology. Now, this as I have served only for a year as police commissioner here, but I must tell you, Delhi police has made use of technology in a big way. It is perhaps one of the uh, best police forces in the country, which is taking the maximum advantage of the technological solutions available for the policing. And they are very good at it. Even at the lower level, like at the constabulary or subordinate ranks level, they are very adept at using the mobile technology and the forensic technology and trying to detect the crime as early as possible. It is very heartening to tell you that the detection rate of the heinous crimes in the city is 86%, which is the best in the country. And the conviction rate for the heinous crimes in Delhi is 87%. Heinous crimes means murder, dacoity, robbery, rape, etc., etc. We categorize some serious crimes as heinous crimes. So by that you can understand that at the field level, it is not possible only by human efforts. We make big use of technology so that not only the detection is faster, but also the investigation is good and we strive for securing the conviction in the court of law. Now, this is a part of the policing. For prevention, we use the technology. For detection, we use the technology. For investigation, we use the technology. But we use the technology also for the ease of reporting by the citizens. Like if you see the large number of apps have been floated by the Delhi police over a period of time. But all of these apps are combined into one, which is known as Tatpar app. You can download it on your mobiles, and it is all in one solution for any problem in the for the citizens. For example, if your vehicle is stolen, you can go to the vehicle theft part of the app and report it to the police. Any crime which is you want to report, anything which you want to report, use that Tatpar app, get yourself registered on Tatpar app and see how it is functioning. There may be some glitches so far as technology is concerned, but 95% time, this app is helping the citizens not only in reporting the crime, but also getting a satisfactory answer from the police. So this is a big thing which Delhi police is using, the use of technology, digital technology, for enabling this common citizen to be in touch with the police without going to the police stations. This is one thing. Secondly, I like to mention about the EFIR. There's a normal refrain in the society that when they go to the police station, the police doesn't register the complaint and a lot of harassment takes place at the police station level. It may be true, it may not be true. But to facilitate the common man, because as I have said, 80% of the crime is small time thefts, snatching, etc. So what we have done, that EFIR option is available on the Delhi police website. You can, by sitting at home, anybody whose house is burned, whose house has been broken in, shop is broken in, or anything has been stolen while traveling, etc., you can register the FIR through internet. We call it EFIR. Now, this EFIR earlier was only for the small thefts and vehicle thefts. During my time, I had added that thefts taking place in the houses or in the shops or any commercial establishment, you can register the FIR straight away by sitting at home. And a system was devised that once the EFIR is registered, the officer of that area, whether he is head constable or ASI, they will visit to the house or the establishment personally to meet the complainant do the Panchnama, initial Panchnama, within 24 hours of reporting of the crime and try to detect the offense. Because most of these smaller thefts, smaller crimes, they are being committed by the criminals who are residing within the area, within the jurisdiction of the police station. There, nobody comes from Rajasthan to commit a mobile snatching in Delhi or commit a theft of motor of your house or this water tap of the house. So the local criminals do that. And in order to detect it quickly, we had made a system that immediately the people, the officer should visit the complainant. I have a data because we had a system of daily reporting. I'll tell you that average 100 to 120 EFIRs were being registered in the city in a day. And we had made a system, each and every EFIR, whether it has been visited by the local officer or not, was also being reported to the CP through various channels. And we used to monitor it. So it's very heartening to tell you that 100% cases, the visits were within first 24 hours of the reporting of the crime. So these are the smaller things I'm mentioning. It has happened only because by the use of technology. We have a very ambitious project of Government of India, which is known as CCTNS, Criminal Tracking Network System. Now all the police stations all over the country are connected through the CCTNS. And any crime committed anywhere in the country is being uploaded on the network system. And as a police officer, I can see whether the crime committed by one person in different part of country has committed crime in Delhi or not. So these things we are using in a big way. And Delhi police has been declared as the best police force in the country in the use of this CCTNS system. This is helping us in detection of crime and further investigations. Now, because of the Honorable Delhi High Court, a project is underway in which the e-prosecution is being connected to the CCTNS. There is a network so that once the investigation is complete, the charge sheets are filed online and the court is also assisted in supplying of documents in time and conducting the trial in a better manner. In Delhi, this e-prosecution is working very well. There are certain gaps which are to be filled, which is in the process. And Honorable High Court is constantly on monitoring these things so that this becomes very useful, not only for the police, but also for the complainants who have lost the FIRs. Another aspect of use of technology is our helpline, or the initially used to call 100, now it is 112 ERSS system. In this, if you see the control room of 112 in Shalimar Bagh, you will find that it is a wonderful system. Like the moment at a time, there are 120 people sitting in the control room receiving the calls. Average calls per day in that control room is nearing 1 lakh. And every call is recorded, attended to, digitized, and the calls which are required, where the attention is required immediately, it is dispatched to the PCR of the area, and police reaches the area and attend the crime. This is one aspect. When I joined, this PCR was a separate vertical and was working independently of the police station. What we did, we studied it and found that if it is merged to the police station staff strength and becomes a part of the police station, then the system is totally integrated and the not only reporting, but immediate response and further investigation will be done in a very integrated and effective manner. As Ajay has already said, Initially, the response time was 8 minutes plus average response time. After merging the PCRs with the control room, the average response time has gone down less than 3 minutes in some cases, but average it is between 3 minutes to 4 minutes. So this problems on the roads, so this has affected the policing. Effectiveness has gone up and brought up the satisfaction level of the people in the society. In addition to that, we have separated now. Ajay has spoken about the police reforms also. As lawyers, you all must be knowing that there has been a great demand and directions, of course, of the courts also as well in the past, and the police commissions in the past, that there should be a separation of law and order and investigation at the Thana level. It's a wonderful concept, and unfortunately, due to various restraints, we were not being able to implement it anywhere in the country, not only in Delhi, anywhere in the country. Main problem was the lack of human resources, shortage of human resources. In Delhi, we had totally separated the law and order and investigation wings. And you being the lawyer, you must be going to the court. But I feel that 70% of the battle is fought in the court because investigation is only 30%. And whatever papers we prepare during the investigation level, only on that basis the battle is fought in the court. So if the papers are prepared properly and scientifically, investigation is done scientifically, our battles in the court will be easier to fight. So if the investigation wing is different from the law and order wing, we have total focus on investigation by the investigating staff. The quality of investigation will go up, and naturally the conviction rate will also go up. And at the police station level, the practical problem was that the person who he has to attend the crime did not know whether next hour he has to go and attend some other law and order problem, some bandobast duty, VVIP duties or not. So in the process, the investigation hampered, suffered, and we had to cut sorry figures before the courts also. I'm not saying that the situation has improved drastically, but it has improved, and we have been able to lay better charge sheets and before the court, and courts are more or less satisfied with the working investigation of the police. There are instances of some adverse observations by the court so far as investigation is concerned, but overall the situation is getting better. Man management in police is a very onerous task, very difficult task. If you go to the police station, you will find the SHO is the boss, and he controls his men, who will go where, who will do the beat duty, who will do the investigation duty, who will do the summons duty. And in police stations also, you must be knowing that there are certain duties which are lucrative, certain duties which are not lucrative, and people are deployed as per the whims and fancies of the SHOs. To obviate that, to counter that, we had implemented an e-chitta system. Now, this Delhi police has a very important position of a person of the rank of head constable, known as Chitta Munshi. The duty distribution has been done by that Chitta Munshi manually. Who will go where, which duty, how many hours. So there was no fairness. We computerized, digitized it. We developed a software. We have young DCPs in the police force who developed it and had implemented it across the city. Now this man management or distribution of duties are done through this e-chitta system. It's working well, and we have ensured that the duty hours should be 8 hours, not more than 8 hours. There should be fairness in distribution of duties. So this is another aspect of technology which we are using for man management in the city. Man, these days you've seen that CCTV cameras all over the city are playing a big role in preventing and detecting the crime. Almost 90% crime in Delhi is being detected through the help of the CCTV footages. We secure the footages from the CCTV cameras, analyze them, and try to find out the culprits and detect the crime, recover the property, and bring the culprits to the book. The Safe City project in Delhi is on the way. It has to be implemented by the next year. Large number of CCTV cameras are going to be installed in the city, in addition to whatever we have. Integrated command and control center, state of art, world class is coming up in Delhi Police Headquarters. The plan is to integrate all the CCTV cameras of different organizations, Resident Welfare Association CCTV cameras, Market Welfare Association CCTV cameras, the police CCTV cameras, airport, railway station, bus stand, municipal corporation CCTV cameras. Every camera will be integrated to the command and control center in Delhi Police Control Room. We will have sub-control rooms also at the Thana level, district level. And in future, I feel if this Safe City project is implemented in a very earnest manner, this will be a game changer for Delhi Police or for the Delhi. Not only in prevention of crime, but also in detection of crime. Now, there are other issues associated with it, which we will talk later on. But this CCTV thing or the Safe City project is very important for us. This is a very ambitious project of the Government of India, MHA. It is almost 900 crores worth of project, which has been implemented out of Nirbhaya Fund. And I think by the next year time, when this G20 summit is going to take place, by that time, this thing will be in place. Now, cyber crimes. The main topic is this of today. This digitalized world has led to various crimes in the cyber space. What is cyberspace? You are using WhatsApp, you are using internet, whatever you are doing using technology can be hacked, can be influenced, can be used by the criminals to harass the citizens. And so many crimes are being committed. Cyber crimes are basically borderless crimes. There is no jurisdiction of the police station. Like a person sitting in Nigeria can commit a fraud in India, and where to register the offense, how to go about it. Because conventionally speaking, we cannot investigate a cyber crime in a conventional manner. We have to use the technology. We have to be one step ahead of the cyber to handle such crime. The less crime and sky is in this space. And I must tell you that in future, this will be the major area of concern for all the police forces across the world. Particularly India, because we are a large country, we are developing fast, we are using the technology in a very big manner. So this cyber crime will occupy a lot of time for the police years to come. We have to ourselves not only to handle such crimes, the technology competent, the human resources which we are going to should be competent enough to handle such crimes, but also we should have the gadgets, the technology to counter such crimes. So keeping that thing in mind, Delhi Police, we have done two things. One, we have refurbished our special cell unit. Earlier it was called SciPad, which was mostly into the cyber awareness sort of thing, but I had designed it and renamed it by name Intelligence Fusion and Strategic Operations Center, IFSO. This is a highly specialized unit of Delhi Police, which is one of the best in the world. And they are handling the cyber crimes under the guidance of the MHA. It is an MHA-driven project, and our special cell is using it. It is a centralized unit. It can handle any crime committed anywhere in the country. Like a person who is, suppose, say, cheated in Bihar, if we log in that particular site, submit a complaint, it reaches to us. We are connected with the banks and other financial organizations. And if it is within the golden hour, we try to stop the payments, etc., and try to retrieve the money. This is one aspect of it. There are so many things which we are doing in IFSO, particularly with regard to the narco-terrorism and terrorism per se, because that is very important for our national security and security of the capital. But cybercrime, as a centralized unit, it is there not only to guide the investigation, but the forensic analysis of the equipments, the trails, etc., is being done at this unit, and it is doing it very well. We are not only having the police officers, we have hired number of consultants, also experts in this field, who assist the Delhi Police in this. In addition to that, what we have done for a common man, suppose a man is using his card and it has been hacked and money has been taken out. So he has to go to the police station to register it. Right. Which police station will he go? So what we have done, we have created cybercrime police stations in each district. Now, there are 15 districts are there in Delhi Police. Each district has a designated notified cybercrime police station, manned by the qualified personnel. They have been trained to investigate such cases. They are educated and literate, computer literate people who are investigating heading such units. And they are in turn connected with the central unit IFSO to conduct expeditious investigation. So these two things we have done to handle the cyber crimes. These such type of crimes, mostly what you find is email frauds, online transaction frauds, cheating, sexual harassment, sextortion, hacking and stealing of personal information and corporate data. Darknet is being used very heavily by the criminals for the narcotics and for selling of illegal arms. Some terror plots are hatched on the darknet. Then cryptocurrency frauds. All these things, there's a large number of crimes which are committed in the cyberspace, and we are aware of it and we are handling it very efficiently through these units. Now, these days you use this, everybody is using this smartphone, and hacking of a smartphone is very easy, whether it is Android or iOS system. Hacking has become so easy that it's very difficult to control such type of activities. Your personal data is being stolen by the interested parties. You are being threatened. Your extortion rackets are going on. I'll tell you my personal experience. Daily, I am getting at least on average 10 calls, even today. Sir, whether you have called us, the people are using my photograph in uniform, using a different number, threatening people, extorting. This extortion is creating an havoc in the society. So the cyber crimes, I must tell you, it has been a very serious concern for us as police officers, and it's consuming a lot of time of the police officers to control it and to detect it and prevent and investigate it. Another aspect of prevention is awareness programs, which we run through various social media networks to make people aware of of the frauds being committed online by the cyber criminals, so that there is a reduction in such thing. But the effect is not much. I admit that. People are aware of it, still they are being duped by these cyber criminals. Even well-to-do people, educated people, literate people are being duped, despite knowing that this thing is happening. The other day, my sister had rung up. She is teaching in the university, Delhi University. She said that I have been contacted by saying that your electricity bill has not been paid. You download this app. I have downloaded it. Shall I go ahead with that? I said, stop it, don't do it, because this is one type of cyber crime which people are doing these days. We will tell you that your this electricity bills or telephone bills are not being paid. You download this app, pay on that, and that payment, instead of going to the company, will go to the person concerned. So these types of things are happening. Even educated people are not being able to control it or prevent it. So this is in nutshell the picture I have given about the challenges which we are facing and how we are handling such challenges. Now the serious issues which I said involved in this is the digitalization has its positive aspects which require a lot of attention, particularly by the advocates, the lawyers, and the judiciary. It's the concern with regard to the privacy. Like being an ordinary citizen, you have your own privacy and it's your fundamental right. But in the name of investigation, your privacy should not be hampered. That is the first thing. And secondly, anybody who is not an investigator, an outsider, should also not uh, attack your privacy. This is one aspect of it. There is another aspect of using of technology is that it brings in a lot of transparency in administration. The corruption level goes down and transparency is there. And even if somebody is using corrupt means, it is very easy to catch them by the use of technology. Now we have to balance between the national security, the policing requirements, and the privacy. This is an area where not only the police officers, but all the citizens, including the intelligentsia, should think about it, and there should be a balance between these two. Being a police officer, my first and foremost concern is to secure not only the city, but also to contribute towards the national security, which is of paramount importance. But I'm a police officer, I'll think like a police officer. There has to be a balance between the two, national security and the privacy. Thank you very much. I hope this is more than sufficient to. There is a lot of things I can speak about, but time is the constraint. So thank you very much, gentlemen. And I like to face the questions if you have any. Thank you.
Before we ask any questions, I would like to invite our guest of honor who has heard the keynote address. And as Mr. Asthana said, he is a police officer. What I see is every atom in the body of Sanjay Jain is a lawyer. He is one of the finest lawyers I have ever seen and very inspiring. So he is an icon and idol for the young generation. And I had an occasion to appear before him, against him in one case. And it was a very messy kind of case. But what happened the moment we met each other, I was sitting inside his chamber and we negotiated the case. That is his capacity of persuasion, that he can get the cases diluted in his chamber itself. And he was elected member of the Bar Council of Delhi. And even among the elected 25 members, they couldn't agree on a better secretary for the Bar Council of Delhi. But then Sanjay ji didn't stay back there. Went for designated. He was a favorite of the collegium also twice. They wanted him to be the judge in the High Court. He became of India, and since 2014, he continues to be an important arsenal with the legal team of the government. I mean, for the private parties, certainly it's not a very favorable thing, but then the government needs him more and more. In every important case, Sanjay ji is there. And Asthana ji was talking about Delhi police. Every time Delhi police has a problem, they take Sanjay.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful that I have been asked to speak and be the guest of honor in the presence of such an illustrious personality of the country, Mr. Asthana, and the main experts that in this August gathering. As far as my role as a lawyer is concerned, I always believe that a lawyer is good in the direct proportion to the trust reposed by the clients in him. And I have had the proud privilege that the departments and the other organizations who have utilized my services, they would put enormous amount of trust in me, which has always incentivized me and motivated me to give my best to innovate and to find a solution for every situation, because contesting a law case in the court does not always mean that we have to remain in conflict all the time. Ultimately, a solution has to be found, which is the eventual objective of any justice dispensation system. Now, coming to the topic, which is challenges of policing in the digitized world. And as Asthana sir has already pointed out, that these challenges are not confined only in the urbanized sector. And these challenges would emerge in the course of detection of crime, investigation of crime, and then eventually in prosecution of the cases all over, whether it is an urbanized, semi-urbanized, or a rural area. So seeing it from the lawyer's point of view, Asthana sir has talked about detection and investigation. I take the topic to the next level, which is the prosecution. And when I say about prosecution, then how to prove my case, prove police's case, which is predicated on digital evidence. Primarily because when it comes to digital evidence, it can be very easily manipulated and fabricated. It can be copied, altered, updated, deleted, intercepted. So it presents a huge amount of challenge to the police, because whatever police produces, the defense lawyers question their authenticity and all other aspects. So therefore, the greatest challenge that the policing has in relation to the digitized content is to maintain the integrity of the digital evidence and to maintain it throughout the investigation as well as the trial. And this is, in my view, a huge amount of challenge, a humongous challenge. And one of the basic ways to deal with this proposition apart from training our police personnel, not only by sending on a 3-month training program, because then during that time is lost, the police force loses their service for that period, by training them on day-to-day basis. And to tackle this problem, we have to understand the broad contours and the finer nuances of Section 65B of the Evidence Act, which provides the conditions for admissibility of electronic evidence without requirement of producing the original. For instance, we have a huge servers that store the data, and only they qualify as a primary evidence. However, it would not be possible to take those servers in the court of law as evidence to prove. So the evidence is taken in the form of a CD or a DVD, a printout, or any other form in which that evidence can be carried. And that we have to establish that digitized evidence in the shape of a secondary evidence. And therefore, 65B assumes a great importance, and it is very critical that our officers, the investigators, our IOs are adequately trained, because what happens is this, that 65B affidavits are just typed in a very mechanical manner in every lawyer's office, and maybe even in the offices of the lawyers who are representing the police. But it is extremely important that the person who is deposing 65B affidavit understands the nitty-gritties of the entire section and is able to withstand a cross-examination to which he may be put in a given situation. So, say for instance, somebody has to produce a certificate from the person occupying a responsible position with respect to the computer from which the data is produced. Now, difficulties which often arise in such kind of situation is that the competent person who is issuing the certificate, for example, when the information is available on internet and the same has to be proved, happens to be the person who takes the printout, and he takes the printout from a website or an email, or for instance, there is a person in charge who is managing the server where the information is stored. Now, this question becomes very important in case of call detail records. So therefore, any person who gives an affidavit under Section 65B that he is the person who has downloaded the material from a server, or he is the person who has downloaded the material from internet, has to be completely well versed with all aspects of Section 65B, because then only all the hard work which has been done by the police officers in the course of detection and investigation, and also because when it comes to policing and using the digitized word, then one is that police is investigating a crime in which digitized equipment has been used, and which not necessarily is a cyber crime, because in other IPC crimes or other crimes may also may have the involvement of some digital equipment being used. So a police officer is supposed to know that. That is one. Second aspect is that when police is investigating, police is also using certain equipments which are digitalized. For instance, police may have to examine the call records, or police may have to examine the video footage. So for that also they require the digitized equipments. So it is a whole networking of digitalized word which is needed to be pressed into this. So the importance of digitized word in the area of in the arena of policing in the times to come is something which cannot be undermined or underscored, or in fact can be taken lightly. Because say for instance, uh, there is a video or a recording or a voice recording. Now, as regards voice recording, there is a direction given by Supreme Court in one of the cases, Ram Singh versus Colonel Ram Singh. Now, that judgment gives a guideline as to how the voice sample has to be given, and to prove the authenticity of voice, what all is required. So, our investigating officers have to keep abreast of the guidelines which are apart from those guidelines which are issued by the police headquarters, which usually take care of the recent judgments, but they are also expected to know and to be abreast of the latest developments in the case law as regards any guideline which pertains to the use of digitized material, either in the investigation or in the prosecution. Similarly, the privacy issues which Mr. Asthana has pointed out, it is of critical importance, because Information Technology Act kicks into this area, and there is always a need to create a balance, because the allegation or the criticism is that even though there is a mechanism for obtaining permission from, say, Home Secretary, or 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 there is a provision that in the case of an emergent situation or in the public interest, that permission can be given ex post facto, and a decision can be taken at the ground level by a senior police officer. All these things will always be open to criticism. But the question is this, that when an investigation is happening and we make the process of obtaining permission or approval very complicated or onerous, then the quality of investigation will suffer. Or there is always a tendency to suggest that everything should be put to judicial scrutiny. Now, suppose we were to create a mechanism for taking approval in doing any investigation which has an element of invading the privacy, and that process requires us to go to a magistrate, then it becomes further cumbersome. Or suppose we were to introduce a third party, say an NGO or some other agency, then it opens a floodgate even for corruption. As many authorities you create to give one kind of an approval, it complicates and multiplies the problems for the law enforcing agencies and even for the citizens. So therefore, it is a very delicate balance, the privacy and the objectives of investigation. I am sure as our system matures and as our officers get more trained, so ultimately it is all a matter of a work culture, ecosystem, the nation rising as a whole, our integrity levels, our social responsibilities. All those things will eventually create a balance in an automatic manner. My only suggestion is that there is always a temptation to create another law, to implement one law, to create more number of rules and regulations. They do not always necessarily resolve a situation. What is the center point for us in the context of the topic today is this, that policing without digitalization or without this electronic footprints will be completely inadequate in the modern times. So it is something which is inevitable. The police forces and their knowledge, their skill sets have to be completely in sync with the digitized world, and there has to be a system where every police officer, starting from the rank of the lowest rank to the highest rank, is adequately exposed to these techniques, not only by sending him to a specific program, but in the day-to-day ecosystem, in the manner in which the day, the 8 hours or 10, 9 hours or 10 hours of a police personnel's duty is structured, it should inherently ingrain some slot of time each day that he learns something about these techniques. That's my suggestion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. And it was a very good complimentary address, complementing to what the police perspective was there by one of the, I would say, finest police officers in the history of independent India. I wouldn't say this with conviction because I have been closely watching everyone. And there have been police officers in the past who were very brave, upfront, and who did a lot of things. But here is a police officer with a vision also. So that makes him different. And Sanjay ji, what you have said, actually, technology creates transparency. That's the gist. And transparency is coming into judiciary also now. Now that we are having court hearings available to everyone online. And now we have some Indian Advocate Forum members here. Our Vice President, Mr. Vivek Sood, is a prolific writer and who has written, I think, 7, 8 books, maybe less, I mean, maybe more. But Vivek has written something about right to privacy. And I think he must be resisting himself for asking a question. Vivek, I invite you. And I know you must be having some good pertinent questions for Mr. Asthana. I don't think that you will be asking Sanjay any question.
No.
Yes.
And when iconic Mr. Asthana is sitting, I may not really be required to answer any question.
No, just because you are a lawyer and he's a lawyer. Yes,
First of all, thank you very much for bringing me on this platform. And Mr. Asthana has lucidly explained the challenges of urban policing in a digitized society. Now, I have written extensively on privacy versus security in my recent book, and that's the most challenging question contemporary society will face in future and is facing today. Now, in my view, first of all, there has to be narrow tailoring. So I'm a pro-privacy activist. So but security is also so important. In Puttaswamy, while the Supreme Court has said that the right to privacy is a fundamental right, but it is not absolute. It has exceptions. And the state has a legitimate interest, in checking criminality and terrorism. So this balance has to be struck. Now, in my view, first of all, there has to be narrow tailoring. So only in exceptional offenses, privacy should give way to security. Terrorism, heinous offenses, etc., etc. But you can't take away the privacy of a citizen in a case of cheating or a matrimonial offense. Because if you do that, then you are living in a society where the big brother is watching you all the time. So and secondly, in my view, you have to archive the record carefully. Either you destroy it. If you suppose you don't want to destroy it, you want to have a future reference point, whether a terrorist is on the prowl or not. Suppose you want to retain that for some time, then you archive it properly if you can't destroy it. Now, my question to Mr. Asthana is, does the police today have a privacy policy at all, first of all? And secondly, Mr. Asthana, what are your views on striking this balance between privacy and security? These are my questions.
Thank you for your enlightening remarks. I 100% agree with you that there has to be some balance between the privacy of an individual and the security considerations. This is the basic punchline from where we should start talking about. Now, so far as privacy policy in the police is concerned, I'm really happy that you have raised this point. It is not there in the form of some SOPs or something like that. Because privacy laws in India, I think, so far as my limited knowledge goes, still in the evolutionary process. So it'll take time, but since this aspect is there and we in the police force, at least at the higher levels, are aware of it, so that thinking process is there that up to which level we should go for securing the privacy of an individual. You have rightly mentioned that in cases of matrimonial disputes or cheating or anything else, this interference in the privacy should not take place. Okay, taken. Now I'll come to that. Privacy is where the privacy is hurt. Okay, you see large number of CCTV cameras all over this city, whether it is a private CCTV camera or the government CCTV camera. Even within your house, you put the CCTV cameras to prevent a crime. Okay, so that is not impinging your privacy to my knowledge. Okay, but if you use the footage to implicate someone or to use it as an evidence, my viewpoint is that only that much portion is required, which is connected to the allegations in the FIR or the crime which is we are investigating. Other things, say for example, when we seize a mobile telephone and subject it to the forensic scrutiny, we take out everything from the mobile phone. There are certain aspects like your private bills which you want to pay, your bank details, things are also there. Normally, okay, now that can be defended as part of investigation. We want to know everything. We have to collect the evidence. But in the process, your privacy is being hampered. I feel so far as this aspect is concerned, law has to be there how far we should go. Okay. It is still under the evolutionary process. But being a senior police officer, it is a duty of the senior police supervisory officer to see to it that only that much portion is required to be collected, which is required for the investigation of the case. But it's a gray area. Like suppose you find a person's mobile something objectionable, which is illegal too. How will you go? How are you going to prevent? It's a gray area. I understand your concern, but we should work on it. That is my personal.
Very, very well said. Very well answered. Very well.
Now we have amongst us Mr. Somesh Arora. Somesh ji has a very checkered, illustrious background. He started from a bank, then jumped into Central Civil Services and as an IRS officer, one of the brightest IRS officers in the country. And then he joined Reliance Industries as a president of a company. And there also he got bored and he left it and he came to practice. So as I say, practice is where all the talent can be accommodated. So Mr. Somesh Arora is one of the talents, and he is a author also, and recently he has written a book on PMLA. He has got very strong views on PMLA. And I do not know what kind of question he would like to ask today, but I certainly expect something coming strong from him. So, Mr. Arora, I welcome you.
Sir, unmute yourself. Mr. Arora is muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, having such a wonderful dignitaries and audience and all the members of our Indian Advocate Forum. And it was very enlightening listening to two stalwarts of the field, digitalization. One is a very senior government counsel or additional Solicitor General, Mr. Rakesh Asthana. We all know about it. It was wonderful hearing from Mr. Asthana about what all he has done for Delhi Police. Definitely some very unique implementations, some very unique ideas. And I think his past shows, that wherever he goes, he implements his idea for whatever time he is, and then he moves on. These are the characteristics of any good administrative officer. To be at a place, implement your ideas, and when you run short of ideas, move over. I hope, he's enriched already the Delhi Police and Gujarat Police, and he's going to enrich the Indian policing in a big way in the years to come with his experience, something which the government must benefit from. A very unique officer and very capable. Of course, our ASG is we know that he's a very versatile lawyer, and he has been dealing with case laws, which I keep on reading on various fields. Very difficult for a person of his position to do justice, but he does it to various laws. See, at his level, every day there could be a brief dealing with the different law, but phenomenal. So we have Mr. Vivek, who is a votary of privacy laws. There are two poses which I like to have, one from Mr. Asthana and one from Mr. Sanjay Jain. Firstly, I'll put it to Mr. Asthana. Mr. Asthana has just mentioned, what all digitalization he has been implementing and how he has been benefiting in the policing as far as Delhi Police is concerned. He also mentioned about the strength and the challenges which they face of the offenders. The offenders, the more they have the strength, the weaker is the police and the governance. The more the weak they are, the strength lies with the policing. That's a very good thing. But I feel the digitalization is one concept which is boundaryless. I normally say, 2-3 things. I said, I used to say that Mr. Gulzar was not knowing when he wrote the song, Panchi Nadiya Pavan ke Jhonke Koi Sarad Na Hame Roke. To that you can always add now, and digital criminals. So they have no boundaries. The police forces have the boundaries. They just move within 5 seconds from one place to another. I give 2 instances personally, like he pointed out about his sister being attempted to be duped. My wife was duped, and of course I have also faced 2-3 attempts. Sometimes they come out with your insurance policy is pending, and you need to work out and do something of X or Y, Z or whatever. And then they try to dupe you of the money. Wife was attempted to be duped. She almost gave away and loaded the app. And within 5 minutes, 1 lakh was being drawn away. And today only, she had lodged a complaint with the SEBI, so she got a phone. Incidentally, I was with her, so I snatched the phone from her and tried to speak that lady. So she was also, surprised that who is this lady and what is he talking about? But the fact was, I could make out she's having conversation with somebody. The SEBI lady today was trying to seek information about her PAN. Very soft-spoken, very cultured. They have the gangsters who are working in collusion with each other. They have the information from public utilities. Of course, the one which attempted to do its part was somebody who was behaving like a BSES official. Ki aapki electricity jaane wali hai, so something which press a panic button. And you just need to transfer 10 rupees late fees because you made the payment by check. It was delayed by a few days, and cashment and all that. Very convincing. And naturally, she got duped by it. She almost did that. And at that stage, I came and I saw the money was about to go. 4 entries of 25,000 from her account. Immediately, we ranked up and stopped the payment. Anything can happen, it is not. The criminals are far more smarter than the police force and even any of the residents, any of the citizens. So we are dealing here not with this thing. It's not a criminal, who will pick up your luggage from train, who will pick up your this thing. And very interestingly, the 25,004 entries which he was trying to, it was going to a gambling app. The credit of it was trying to be shifted to a gambling app, which by playing some game, and after that he could have withdrawn the money anywhere in the world, China, Dubai. So this is the kind of a gambling apps, and this is the kind of swiftness with which they are working. Where is the solution to that? How is policing working in this kind of a thing? Within 5 minutes, you are being due from here. Somebody plays a small game, then he's allowed to withdraw by the Chinese app holder or the person sitting in Dubai, and the money is gone. So with this kind of a swiftness, is the international cooperation to that extent existing? Are all the countries cooperating? Are we trying to have one-upmanship with them? Because if you don't do that, if somebody in China is playing mischief, naturally they would like to see cooperation from you if your people are also playing mischief. It has to be mutual. You develop, you have the various apps, security apps, which can also dupe you. You download some of the security apps, they can dupe you. So why are not we thinking of developing our own Indian apps? We have done so much on digitalization. This is one thing where we can focus also on and develop our own security like McAfee and others. We should try to develop our own security app, which should be, government approved and government implemented, something like that we can go ahead with. So that's one query I'll have from Mr. Thana, then I'll speak to Mr. Sanjay Jain with the poser. Kindly, sir, react to whatever I've said.
So far as developing the security app is concerned, I must tell you, the government of India is on it.
Great.
They're doing it.
Great.
And a lot of work has been done in that regard, and
Great.
the experts are working on it. Secondly, you said that the money is gone in 5 minutes or so, whatever time. It's absolutely correct, no denial to that. Now, I mentioned, if I remember, about the golden hour. But if there's an accident on the road, there's a golden hour to save a person by bringing him or her to the hospital. Similarly, in the cyber crime, there's a period, intervening period, which is known as golden hour. Use it, because unless you tell the agencies, the subsequent actions cannot be taken. Automatically cannot happen. Nowhere in the world you can have this type of system that if you are duped, automatically system starts working and your money is stopped. Nowhere in the world. In India also, as I have mentioned, we have a centralized unit. MHA has a center in MHA. There is a system. The moment you realize the fraud has taken place, just log into that system and inform. Everything is done automatic. The banks and financial institutions are also on board. The moment we forward it or the mail is forwarded to them, automatically that particular account is blocked and money is not allowed to go out. I don't have exact number of the figures, but hundreds of crores of rupees have been saved during the year 2020 and 21 by implementing this system.
Great.
So awareness is the answer. Prevention is better than cure. That is the answer. And the moment you come to know about it, you must inform the, not by way of registering an FIR. There is a system, you just log in through your mobile also, you can log in and do it. So that is the answer. Thank you.
Sure, to that only. The 3 times when the fraud was attempted on me, all the 3 times I went to the DCP's office, cybercrime, gave him all details, what time call came, what number, what was this person sounding like, how much authentic he was in English, how much was whatever I could from the phone call. Of course, that was all given as a citizen of India to preempt any future action. But sir, almost 3-4 months have gone. Whether they are at some job, I'm not even got an acknowledgement. So at least, to encourage the citizen, minimum daily police or any other police outfit should do is that whenever somebody is giving information to preempt such action, at least effort should be appreciated and acknowledgement should be given, which should be instructions given by the Home Ministry to all the DCPs that if some citizen is coming forward, giving such kind of a details, at least its effort should be appreciated. We don't want to know the details what action you are taking, but at least it reached the right hands and something is happening. Is a great satisfaction for any citizen of India. Next, I have a query from, a small poser from Mr. Sanjay Jain. These spoke about the evidences in digital world and all that. Yes, there's a problem everywhere. We have the same problem with dealing with the money laundering matter or even the tax matters, the GST and other. Now, there are 2-3 things about it, especially about cyber crimes. As we mentioned, that preemption is more important than this thing because of the swiftness with which the fraud happened. The prevention can happen only by citizens coming forward, somebody making a doubtful call, or bringing it to the notice of the police authority so that they take suitable action. But for that, we'll have to make the attempt also as an offense in the cyber world. So something of a government or the legislature should think about making the attempts in the cyber world, such attempts, as a punishable offense, even if required by making certain presumptions in the legislation. I'm not sure whether something of that kind is going on because you are such a senior government lawyer. So maybe you are aware of thinking which may be going in the legal annals of the government of India. So that's something, I wanted to know. Secondly, you mentioned about the problem of authentication of digital evidence. See, a very old practice which we have in custom, it still exists, is the magistrate authenticating drugs, even if the destruction is needed immediately, or even the gold. You catch some ornaments or any gold of unmarked gold which goes for melting. You can't keep on keeping it pending for years together. You have to destroy it. You have to dispose it off. So the process is that the magistrate either comes or calls for everything before himself and they authenticates. Can something of that kind be done even in relation to digital evidences? Rather than 65 be somebody opening computers and all that and all that. Maybe call this thing, if it is an exercise of this thing, at least in exceptional cases involving national security or very big crime, terrorists and other things. The process of authentication of digital documents, can it be entrusted to magistrates? These are 2 queries which I have.
See, if we anything during the course of investigation is brought to the magistrate for authentication, the scenario would require a presumption that everything is already there is a inherent presumption that it is authentic, and magistrate is only certifying the factum of the same being authentic. But this is now not how the judicial system in this country works. Here, whatever evidence you gather, whatever evidence a police gathers or any investigating agency, whether it is the ED officer or it is a CBI officer or any other law enforcing agency, in whichever capacity, like Narcotics Bureau. So whatever evidence you gather, you have to prove it in accordance with the law. So there is a procedure prescribed. So if there is a procedure, some information technology law has some procedure, so that has to be followed. If Evidence Act has a procedure, that has to be followed. So what perhaps is in your mind is that, you see, the tangible goods, what custom confiscates tangible goods. So those goods, their forensic examination, even if it is to be conducted later, at least the fact that these goods were imported, they were brought here, this consignment is there, it is physically available, only this aspect is authenticated. But when it comes to these cyber crimes or digitalized contents and other things, then it has to pass through. For instance, Asthana sir mentioned about the data being download it from a mobile phone. Now, privacy issue aside, because unless a police officer or an investigator goes into all the data of the mobile phone, he would not be able to separate the chaff from the grain. He would not be able to know that which is the material data and which is the irrelevant data. For that, there can be a policy that once the police officer or the investigator comes to the conclusion only this much data is required, then the remaining data, that the integrity of that as a privacy material will not be touched or will be kept intact, that there can be some policy with regard to that. But there has to be a first somebody looking at it. And unless he looks at it, he will not be able to edit it or come to a conclusion as to this part is relevant and this part is not relevant. So a magistrate, suppose it cannot be a situation akin to a 164 CRPC statement. That's, for instance, you have a witness, somebody is a victim, or you have a witness who is available. So the police records a 161 statement, which is not to be taken on its face value, and it has to be corroborated. But if the same person is presented before the magistrate under one, any magistrate records 164 statement, so that has an element of that is taken as if it is not a statement recorded by a police officer. So something to that effect, if we are looking at, we can certainly reach that stage. But for that, we will have to have little more, I would say, have to have little more progress in terms of some software being built, where in a short span of time, in the sense that, yes, with the moment we capture that data or that original, because, suppose there is a matter of video recording, video footage, then the original instrument, somebody can say that, no, I am challenging it. And suppose you show only an extract of a video footage, somebody, the accused, will say, no, it is all tempered, it is photoshopped. So you have to have a whole recording. So in the initial stage, the entire material has to be preserved. Even the original instrument from which the recording was made, that has to be preserved. The telephone in original form has to be preserved. Server in the original form has to be preserved. And in the court of law, then when you prove it through secondary evidence, then there is another procedure. So therefore, sir, what you have said is certainly a food for thought, that can we develop some kind of a system or a regime or a mechanism by which some kind of a certification can take place. But that certification, what is the evidentiary value of that certification in the context of digitalized contents, is something which needs to be further debated and examined by experts like Mr. Sood, because it is something which is very attractive in the first blush to think. But when we have to prove something in a court of law, retain its evidentiary value and preserve and protect the privacy concerns of a person investigated, all these things require an integrated approach, and that integrated approach is something which with the passage of time, I'm pretty sure we will be able to develop. For instance, Mr. Asthana has just informed us that the government is in the process of coming out with with something like McAfee, as you mentioned. So therefore, there are many things which are happening at the government level. But as we normally argue every day, that lot of litigants bring us the file notings, and they said, look, this is what you were thinking, but you did not do. So we tell them that, look, you have no vested right is created in your favor on the basis of file notings unless the decision is taken and communicated. So we from the government mechanism cannot tell you ultimately till such time the thing comes in the shape of a bill. But a lot of things are happening. The government is very sensitive and aware of giving impetus to this digital world, because this is our greatest capital for future.
Very well said, sir. To that, I may add up. On Custom Act, there's a provision, section 110A, which permits such authentication by the magistrate only to the extent that whenever there's a sample drawn of drugs or gold before the destruction or disposal, magistrate says that yes, the sample has been drawn before me, and this is the authentic sample drawn as per the procedure.
It's only
So he does
certifying the factum of that thing being present.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
it.
yes. So similarly, about the digital documents, I agree it cannot be done, in each and every case. You can't have so many magistrates. Maybe digital documents will become the norm in future. But at least in an exceptional case where maybe Commissioner of Police says, there's an exceptional case where magistrate's presence is required while extracting documents from, say, computer or other thing. So apart from a forensic expert sitting, judge doing its bit, or maybe a magistrate doing his bit, at least in exceptional cases,
Yeah,
something
maybe in times to come, we can have some institution like cyber notaries.
Yeah,
like you have notary publics.
That's what exactly I have in mind.
You have
That's
cyber
exactly
notaries.
Right.
So can I say something?
Mr. Asthana has a comment to make on this.
Oh yes. Yeah. Please.
This digitalized world, when transparency is there, please have faith in police. If the investigating officer is downloading something in the presence of independent witnesses, please believe in him or her. The basic thinking in our mind is that whatever the police is doing is incorrect. It should be done by the magistrate. I don't think it is an appropriate thinking.
So the magistrate is simply because it is more acceptable to the court.
But the number of
That's
cases
advantage.
are so many that magistrate's hand will be always full.
Yeah, so that's why I said, exceptionally it should be. Maybe police commissioner can say that this is the appropriate case to do it, not in every case. So
sir, I have a question to Mr. Asthana ji. Sir, nowadays I am reading news regarding this honey trap. So what Delhi police is doing to prevent such kind of this crime, which is now every day we used to read this.
So, I have mentioned about the sextortion thing, in which people are getting into your telephone, and there is an application, software which is stealthily downloaded in your mobile, and then you have a video call with a supposedly some lady, and then it is recorded by the person concerned, and then your extortion takes place showing that video. This is all a spoofed thing. So first and foremost thing is the awareness campaign which the Delhi police run. And secondly, even if such thing happens and reported to the police, then the investigation has to be done in a very fair manner. It should not be a biased investigation, thinking that since this video is there, so the male who has been accused of is responsible actually. So that unbiased investigation has to take place. But that trauma which the victim has to go through because unless investigation is done, the truth cannot come out.
Correct. Thank you, sir.
And Sumeshji, you actually enriched the discussion beyond even my expectations, and everybody seems to be very satisfied with the kind of discussion that it has led to. And now I am going to ask you that questions have to be very short, because the messages which I am getting is they are saying that all their questions they wanted to ask have been answered by Mr. Asthana and by Mr. Sanjay Jain, and they don't have questions. But actually, I want to hear some people giving 1 minute, so that the discussion can go to the next level. And it's going to be a very short time we are left with. We never expected it will go so long. So Chittarbu Nageshwar Rao from Hyderabad, a very towering personality, a very fearless lawyer, is a real lawyer, with his feet on ground and head in the sky. And he was president of the Combined Bar Association of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So I invite you I know your questions have been answered, but you still say something.
Because it is Adhyaksha Mahodiya's order, so I must ask something. One thing I must approve, what I will really show, it's a very good seminar, educative, and really we all got educated. And Asthana's, Rakesh Asthana Garu's, the way he explained it, it's very nice, one thing. And almost all the entire subject of the police, that is as investigating officers, the Evidence Act has also been answered by Sanjay Jain, the top law officer of the country, and the doubts of Vivek Singh, because now we are all practicing on defense side. Well, one question which always persists my mind is whether there is any need, so Sanjay Jain also, sir, whether there is any need to amend the Evidence Act as well as the Criminal Procedure Code. Suppose, yes, the Solicitor General was putting it, they said investigating officer to be sensitized. I feel that the whole police force has to be. That is where you have to stop. As you are putting it, where you have to stop the investigation. What is the relevant personal affairs to be investigated? What is the crime related? That seems to be absent somewhere down the line. And even the acceptance of evidence 65, we all know. In fact, we take advantage of it also. And to be frank, and 65, we need to be some sort of evidence as put it. We have to bring the whole original piece of piece to establish evidence. We can't bring the whole server to the court prosecution. Therefore, it's a field day for the defense advocates. Somewhere to go around. Then criminal procedure code. Then recording of statements, admissibility of evidence. There are things what I think the only one short question is, do you feel there is any need? Because Sanjay Jain Garu, one circular, I am also a member of Bar Council of Andhra Pradesh also. There's one circular from the Law Ministry asking the Bar Councils to give an opinion with regard to amendments to CRPC and Evidence Act also, and IPC also. In fact, I have submitted something to our Bar Council, we will be forwarding it, but we don't know when it will come, when it will be tabled before the Parliament. But there needs to be some distinctions to be drawn between investigation, prosecution, behavior of the investigator, though we lay down the various judgments. But yet, the defense lawyers are the accused. Definitely, it also, I'm speaking of on behalf of victims also. Sometimes they feel that justice is not completely done by the courts. Because we believe in the theory, unless it is proved beyond reasonable, there can't be a conviction. But the question is, somewhere, therefore, the automatic blame goes on the investigating agents, not on court and advocates to defend them. Therefore, do you feel any necessity for amendment of Evidence Act? Some type of more funding to the police investigating agent department as it, to give more coaching and investigation, more education on that purpose, including digital like education, so on. Your personal opinion. Any amendments necessary? Rakesh Garu.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're on.
I, personally speaking, as a professional police officer, the worst thing which I experience is that when we lay the charge sheet in the court and the trial starts, everything is recorded afresh. Say, whatever the IO has recorded, the court doesn't rely on it. The chief examination is there, the cross is there. So that delays the trial. Okay. So to that extent, this there should be an amendment and some balance has to be brought in. Because of course, historically, police has been accused of doing wrong things. Wrong people have been arrested or charges are placed wrongly, understood. But some, at least you will have to have some faith or some belief in the investigating officer and his abilities. To that extent, the Evidence Act or the CRPC has to be amended.
There is one problem. Yeah, they say action taken on good faith is always protected.
That's all right. But
Yeah, but then
very, very nice putting. Very nicely put it.
yeah, but then that section is pressed into service only when there is a personal attack on the officer.
Of course, just in a lighter vein, I was saying.
It happens. But what Asthana sir is saying, actually, the judicial trend, unfortunately, is going in a reverse direction. If you come to think of this Evidence Act and all these procedural laws, the Evidence Act was brought into this country in the British time immediately after the Gadar, that is the mutiny. British had zero faith in the local population or the impartiality or the neutrality of the Indian natives, without whose involvement they could not run an administration. So they also would have realized that at that point in time, or it was their perception that they cannot do the policing by getting all the Britishers from England and asking them to board a ship and to come to India. So they had to necessarily rely on the Indian, as they would call natives. So they had even though they were supposed to do the policing, they had a zero faith in them. And then also we have to realize that to some extent it may not be misplaced entirely, because we had a very regressive caste system in which there was a likelihood that the police officer may not be act as objectively, because the society was growing. But after more than 125-30 years of Evidence Act coming into 1872, and now we are in 2022. So even after 140 years, we are treating the same 161 CRPC position and assessing our police officers' caliber with the same suspicion is something which requires a lot of introspection. That is one. And the recent judgment in the case of NDPS, when 67, we are talking about narco terrorism and other things, and you have taken away the evidentiary value of Section 67 statements. So I don't want to sound like a anti-citizen lawyer or anything, but then as a citizen, is it not my right that my next generation and my current my contemporary India should be free from the menace of drugs and other things? So this whole theory of presumption of disbelief towards police officers requires rethinking. After all, we have invested 75 years in this country. We are producing, we have Indian police service. We have a now indigenized system. It's our own country, our own countrymen. So when an Indian administrative service person, IAS officer is believed everywhere, your IRS is believed everywhere, and IPS, not exactly IPS in the sense that police personnel is not believed. So this is something, an assessing officer, what he does is something which we cite even in the Supreme Court, that look, assessing officer has gone into this question and it should be believed. But I cannot say the same thing with regard to the 161 statement. So this is something which requires a larger debate.
So I have a suggestion to make in that.
In fact, it is going on. The debate is going on, in fact. What to do? How to get it done? Yeah.
Right. I have a suggestion to make to Mr. Rakesh Asthana as well as this thing. You mentioned about investigators not being believed in court. Maybe true because of the experiences which the judges have. What I say is that why doesn't the police do the job itself of grading their investigators? We have the advocates, we have the senior advocates, we have the exporters, we have the export houses, we have the star export houses. So the checks and balances that keep on going less with the upgradation. So why don't you also start your own initiatives of having your investigators graded as senior advocate, senior investigators, 20 years experience in investigation, this and that. So that will have definitely greater credibility with the courts. So start your own intrinsic system.
Sumeshi, can I intervene?
Yeah, sure, please.
Let me answer this first.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Do you think it is not happening?
But it's not known to the court, no?
Court is interested in the rank of the officer, not the sufficient number of experiences or services which he has put in. Investigating officer can be a DSP, investigating officer can be SP,
Sure.
investigating officer
Sure.
can be head constable. Head
Yeah.
constable can be of 30 years of service. The ACP or DCP can be having only 10 years of service. So we go by the rank. If the serious offenses are there, we definitely assign cases to the senior officers or experienced officers like senior inspectors who have already put in 25 years of service. So this is happening within the system. There is no doubt about it.
Right.
Second thing I want to tell, comment again,
Yeah.
that as a police officer, if a sub-inspector goes on a deputation to some other agency, and if that special act says that the signed statement is admissible before the court of law, he is accepted by the court. But when he comes back to the police and investigate, he cannot take the signed statement because it is not acceptable to the court. He is not believed. For
That's true.
example, so this dichotomy has to be settled.
See,
Police
the law recognizes the dichotomy of the two laws.
No.
IPs on one side and
I-
specialized laws on this
I'm
other
not
side.
on that. I'm not on that. Point is that the basic belief which the learned ASG has just mentioned, we are continuing with this our British mentality that locals are not to be believed.
Somewhere you're right. I think you're right.
We should not continue with that. We are now more than 100 years ahead of that 1861 or 1872 Act.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe, the custom statement is permissible if taken before the superintendent, why not before the senior police
Oh, a
officer?
police officer going to the Enforcement Directorate or
Yeah.
the NCB, if he records a statement, that is
Exactly.
admissible before the court of
Definitely.
law.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You have a point there.
Ajay, can I seek your liberty to leave? Actually, I have to prepare for tomorrow matters and a lot of conferences.
Sanjay ji, I'll just take another 5 minutes of yours.
Okay, thank you.
Because you being on board is going to make things look greater.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
Just give me 5 minutes more. So, Sumeshi, situations are changing and people, person to person, it depends. And what we are up to is that whether technology can make the difference. And the attitude of a police officer who is techno savvy automatically proves that he wants to change the things. And Mr. Asthana being at the helm of affairs, taking policy decisions in Delhi police to make changes across the board. I mean, don't you think things are changing? That Mr. Asthana was the police commissioner of Delhi. The biggest change, I could see that.
See,
And certainly, I mean, I'm not expecting an answer because I want to conclude here now.
Yeah. See, I'd like to compliment him for his effort.
Yeah.
And I rather feel, that why a person like him has to come at the helm of affairs so late. Technology
And,
has been moving so fast in the last 10 years.
The question, Somesh, that you must be asking is, when a person in this country gets so much of experience, he becomes a final product, a complete product. And suddenly one fine morning you tell him, hey guy, you are superannuated. You look at him, he looks so young, he's energetic. And he still have a lot of, energy to do a lot of things. So now, before closing now, I want 1 minute questions coming from people who are actually wanting to say something. Here is somebody sitting in a forest in Goa. His name is Sandeep Silas. He is dying to ask a question, but Sandeep, you only have 1 minute.
Okay. We've been waiting for a long time.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Rakesh Asthana, for a very reassuring talk. Continuing the discussion on the borderless policing, I was just thinking that in a digitalized world, can we not have, everybody's working on apps these days, even to order food or grocery or whatever. Can we not have an app to report across the borders all over India, just one app to report a digital crime? One. And the second is our frontline staff, which is the basic constabulary, not in Delhi, but in most of the states. I think years and years of dealing with crime sometimes brutalizes behavior and the process in the mind. But definitely, courtesy is something which should be inculcated. What do you say on that? Thank you.
So far as cybercrime is concerned, there is a system in which sitting anywhere in the country, you can report it to the centralized portal. Okay, through your mobile or through your email or whatever. And automatically it is transferred to the jurisdictional police stations. That is already in place. The only thing is that we are not aware of it. And Government of India, Cyber Dost is the tagline of MHA. You can go and see what all the Government of India has done and how we are tackling it. So it is there, already there. Second part is of the second question is with regard to the attitude and behavioral aspect of the policeman. We are aware of it. Constantly, we are trying to improve upon it. And if you will not believe, the younger generation which is joining the police force now is much more educated and aware of the things happening all around. And this beating or misbehaving with the common man or the complainant or the victim is going down substantially. It is not zero, but it is going down. Even in foreign countries, you will see bad behavior by the cops with educated people, particularly people not belonging to their country or different race. They misbehave. In India also, the police misbehave, but the instances are going down because the younger lot which is coming in is much more educated and aware. Even if as a senior officer, you tell them to use harsher methods to deal with the criminals, they will not agree to do that. They won't.
I think we had a very purposeful discussion, and Mr. Rakesh Asthana, being a person with such a big experience, we want something like that, that because crime is borderless, we need an all India authority which can integrate all the police departments. I mean, I'm just having some kind of a vision that because crime is borderless, so you can actually think of a bigger structure or a structure appropriate to check it out. Anyway, and I must thank you for taking our invitation and giving so much of time. I actually told you it will take 1 hour. It's 2 hours past. And Sanjay ji, I know the kind of briefs that are lying in your office. I can imagine you'll have to give 2 more hours in the night to compensate for what you have given over here. And the lawyers over here all have their briefs lying there and they have to work. And let me tell you, it's not only the lawyers over here. There are police officers. There are common men. Mr. Rishi is there. Rishi, you can raise your hand so that people can see you. He's a real responsible citizen of this city. And here is Akash Pratap Singh. He is a very fine lawyer from Khaitan, OP Khaitan and Company. And we have Sonal Jain and so many of us. So now with your permission, I want to declare the webinar as closed. Although many of us have a lot of questions, we certainly will have another webinar of this kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.